He arrived early like he always did. Years of being a single father had trained him to plan for everything: time, energy, emotions. Sitting at the small cafe table, he checked his phone once and then put it face down. Blind dates weren't his comfort zone, but he had agreed because part of him believed life shouldn't be lived entirely behind walls. Still, he expected something simple: two adults, coffee, conversation, nothing more. When the door opened, he looked up casually and then froze. She stood there holding a small child on her hip, calm and composed, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. For a split second, panic crossed his face. Not judgment, surprise, because no one had mentioned a child. She caught his expression immediately and paused, clearly bracing herself for disappointment she had learned to expect. She walked over slowly and sat down, apologizing before he could speak. Her voice was steady but tired, the kind of tired that comes from explaining yourself too many times. She said childcare had fallen through, that she understood if he wanted to leave, that she was used to it. The little girl looked at him curiously, wide-eyed and quiet, sensing the tension without understanding it. He didn't stand up, he didn't sigh, he didn't glance at the exit. Instead, he smiled genuinely and did something she didn't expect at all. He pulled a small toy car from his pocket and gently slid it across the table toward the child. "I always carry one," he said softly, "just in case." The little girl lit up instantly, and something in the air shifted. The woman stared at him, confused. No one had ever done that. No one had prepared for her life the way it actually was. She explained then she was a single mother, used to people seeing her situation as baggage. Dadding had become a series of apologies she didn't owe. She waited for him to change his mind. He didn't. He told her his story too, about raising his child alone, about learning that kids don't ruin plans, they redefine them, about how responsibility doesn't shrink a heart, it stretches it. As he spoke, she realized he wasn't trying to impress her. He was being honest, and honesty, she had learned, was rare. The cafe noise faded into the background as the child played quietly between them. They talked about routines, exhaustion, guilt, and love, the kind of love that shows up even when you're empty. This wasn't a typical blind date. There was no pretending, no performing, just two parents speaking a language only they truly understood. At one point, the child reached for his hand without thinking. He didn't flinch. He didn't overthink it. He simply held it, steady and warm. The woman's eyes filled slightly, not with tears but with relief. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she had to split herself into pieces to be accepted. The unexpected moment came when the bill arrived. Before she could react, he asked for an extra cup and ordered milk and cookies for the child. "Dates don't end just because they look different," he said with a smile. "They end when people stop trying." The words landed deeper than he knew. They stayed longer than planned. There was laughter, real laughter, the kind that surprises you. When it was time to leave, he helped her with the stroller without asking, without assuming, just offering. She realized then that what moved her wasn't romance, it was respect. Outside, before parting ways, she thanked him for not making her feel like a problem. He replied quietly, "You weren't a problem, you were honest." And in that moment, both of them understood something important. Connection isn't about perfect timing. It's about shared reality. That night, each of them went home thinking the same thing. Not about love, not about the future, but about how rare it is to be met where you are, without explanation, and how powerful it feels when someone doesn't just accept your life, but prepares for it. If you're watching this and you've made it this far, maybe it's because you felt that fear too, the fear of being too much, too complicated, too real. Let this story remind you, the right people don't ask you to simplify your life. They step into it. The days after that unexpected blind date felt unusually quiet for both of them, but not empty. It was the kind of quiet that lingers after something meaningful has happened, the kind that makes ordinary routines feel different. He went back to packing lunches, tying shoelaces, and answering endless questions from a curious child. Yet his mind kept returning to that cafe table and the moment he chose not to walk away. He hadn't planned to make a statement that day. He had simply acted like a parent who recognized another parent's reality. For her, the memory stayed close in a different way. She replayed the small details, the toy car, the calm smile, the way he never once looked uncomfortable holding space for her daughter. She had grown used to bracing herself for rejection before it even arrived, but this time there had been none. Instead of feeling evaluated, she had felt understood. That feeling stayed with her long after the night ended. They didn't text constantly. They didn't rush to define anything. Life didn't allow for fantasy, and neither of them wanted one. But there were messages, simple check-ins, shared jokes about sleepless nights, photos of small victories only parents appreciate. Slowly, something steady began to form, not from excitement, but from familiarity. One afternoon they met again, this time at a park. No candles, no quiet corners, just sunlight, laughter, and children running freely. He watched her daughter play, noticing how she glanced back every few seconds to make sure her mother was still there. He recognized that look. It was the same one his own child carried. Trust built through consistency, not words. She watched him too. The way he knelt to listen. The way he didn't rush moments meant for patience. She realized then that attraction wasn't what had drawn her closer, it was safety. The kind that doesn't demand anything but offers presence without conditions. There were conversations that followed, hard ones, about fear, about boundaries, about protecting their children from unnecessary confusion. They agreed on one thing immediately. Whatever this became, it would move at the pace their kids needed, not their loneliness. That understanding created something rare, mutual respect without negotiation. The unexpected challenge came when someone else entered the picture. A well-meaning friend questioned her choice, warning her about complications, about dating someone with his own responsibilities. She listened politely, but she already knew the truth. Complications weren't the problem. Lack of empathy was, and he had shown her empathy from the very first moment. For him, doubt arrived late at night. He worried about letting someone close again, about disrupting the fragile balance he had built for his child. But then he remembered the cafe, the calm acceptance, the feeling of not having to explain himself. He realized something important. Fear wasn't protecting him anymore. It was limiting him. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It happened quietly on a night when both children fell asleep on the couch during a movie. The room was dim, the world paused. They sat there, not speaking, aware that something real was taking shape. Not romance driven by fantasy, but connection rooted in reality. She finally broke the silence, saying softly that she wasn't looking for perfection, only partnership. He replied that he wasn't looking to be rescued, only understood. They smiled at the simplicity of it, realizing how rare it was to want something so grounded in a world obsessed with spectacle. What began as a blind date had become something intentional, not fast, not flashy, but honest. And honesty, they both knew, was the strongest foundation they could offer their children. If you're still watching this story, it's because you recognize this kind of connection, the kind that doesn't sweep you away, but steadies you. The kind that doesn't ask you to leave parts of your life behind, but makes room for all of it.